that is actually not a human being. He's worse than any, even as bad as Dr. Mengele, only without the action but with the speaking. Dear friends and whoever is here, good evening. My name is Hanna Weschler. I was born in Poland, but I am a member of a dying generation. My colleagues, people my age, are dying every day, and no new one are reborn. So my name is Hanna Wexler, but actually my name is 88987. This is the number that I have on my head that was tattooed on me when I landed in Auschwitz. I would like to tell you, I am a miracle child, no child, but a miracle. I'm one of the few people that survived Auschwitz with a mother and a father. In the 75 years that I exist, I never met anybody else that survived with a mother and a father. I survived with a mother because my mother was a big hero, and she did anything that she could just to save my life. I'm going to make the beginning a little bit shorter because I decided to tell you more and more about Auschwitz, because Auschwitz was hell on earth that nobody could ever imagine that human being can create such a hell on earth for other human beings. My two of my grandparents, I was the only grandchild on both sides. Both grandparents put my mother on a guilt trip that she has to save me, because just like the young people that are here in the audience, that they are the future of America, I was the future in my grandparents' eyes, that if I survive, I will be able to share my story, what people did to children, to grown-ups, to 6 million Jews were killed, and out of them, 1.5 million children were killed by the hands of the Germans. So both parents put my mother at guilt that she has to save me. My father came to my grandparents on his side and asked for help, that maybe my grandfather knows somebody that would take us in. My grandfather was a nice man in a little town, and he knew a lot of people, and a lot of Polish people were his friends. So when this happened, my father came there, and my grandfather gave him an address of 5 people that he can go to Polish people. Maybe they would take us in. All 4 of them said no. The 5th one said yes. Why did they all say no? Because the punishment for keeping a Jew was in your house. Hiding a Jew was your house was burned, you were killed, and the people that were hiding were also killed. So this was really a very, very bad experience for those people, and they did not want to take us in. And Polish people at that time had also did not like so much of their Jewish neighbors. So we came to the lady, the 5th house, and she needed badly money, and she took us in. She took us in. We all came and stayed in her cellar where the horses were. And she was hiding us, but she was very nice, and she told us, I am hiding you on one condition, that if I come down and ask you to leave, the next day at night You all have to leave slowly and quietly because my neighbors are starting to to suspect that I have people because of the garbage that is more garbage and because of running to the supermarket more often. We stayed in that place down in the where the horses were. It was very, very cramped and very, we had to be very quiet during the day. And at night we were allowed to go to the bathroom. After a few weeks, she came down. Unfortunately, the neighbors started snooping around and she said, I'm sorry, you have to go. We really picked up ourselves slowly and walked to a place that we knew that the Germans are collecting the Jews that were taken out from the bunkers and taken out, thrown out from the Polish people because the Polish people were scared to be caught that they were hiding a Jew. What I am explaining here is you should know that the situation at that time, people were very, very scared, very unsure, especially me as a child. My mother always told me, you have to be quiet, you have to be not heard and not seen, just be quiet. And as a good little girl that at that time, I really was not anymore a good little girl. I was a grown up. From fear, you children become much faster grown ups. So the next day, we went to that place quietly. The distance from the house to that place where they collected us was like a mile, and this mile was for us and any people that were caught by the Polish people like a, a no man's land. Anybody could have shot us, hit us, spit on us, anything, because there was really nobody to protect us. But we were lucky in this respect. We got to the connection place and waited. In the mornings, the Germans came with a truck and collected us and took us to Krakow. In Krakow, there was a big ghetto. Our grandparents, meanwhile, was already sent to the ghetto, and we got from them an order, please don't come close to us, because us they are going to kill right away, and maybe if you don't show next to us, maybe you can survive. We came to the ghetto, my parents and my other people. We were put in a tiny little room. And in the morning, everybody had to go to work. I, as a little girl, was left in the room by myself. And my mother again explained to me, don't go to the window, don't answer the door. The best thing you should do, you should be under the covers, under the bed until we come home. No food, no nothing until my parents came home. My parents came home from work. My father was on one side at work and my mother on the other side at work. And when they came back, my excitement that they are back was unbelievable because my mother always prepared me. I might not to come back. I might not to come back. I might not be there. I might die when on the way. If I don't come back, please take care of yourself. Be a good girl. So I was always very, very scared. God forbid she doesn't come home. One of the people with us in the ghetto was my uncle. And one of my uncles, he was an extremely bright and conniving human being. Conniving in the good way because he was trying to find a way How can we run away from the ghetto? And he found a way. The way was that one of us that looks like a gentlewoman would go out of the ghetto and get us false papers. He came to us during the evening and said to my mother, Ruja, that was her name, you look like a gentle lady. You have blonde hair and blue eyes. Here is my mother walking the streets after the war here with me. And this is, her name was Ruja, and this was after the war. So when my mother, he offered her if she please could go for us to save us and get those papers. My mother said yes. She snuck out of the ghetto and went on a tram. On the tram, she was met by a German man that was an officer, and he got up and gave her to the seat. She was sure that he realized that she is a Jewish woman, and he will kill her. But she was lucky. He didn't say that. He didn't see it. He was a gentleman, and he let her sit instead of he sitting. At the same time, with the same trump, my mother got to the gentleman that was doing the false papers. I stayed there 24 hours until he did all the papers. And then my mother came back, snuck in again to the ghetto, and came back home. And you can imagine, it was such a happiness in me. I started screeching, oh, mommy, you are back. Oh, mommy, you are back. This was something that it is very difficult to transmit the fear and the happiness of a 6-year-old child. The child was a grown-up that suffered from fear, insecurity, and was very, very, very scared all the time. My mother brought the papers. We snuck out of the ghetto. Once we snuck out of the ghetto, we went with 2 guides that brought us over the border, and there was no food, there was nothing, but we walked and walked and walked. One evening, when we realized that everybody that it's night and we don't have those guides, the guide disappeared. They got the money and they left us alone in no man's land. It was very, very scary. We did not know what to do and how to do. But from far we saw a shepherd with a big flock, and we called him and we gave him money. He should take us to a safe place. No language, no understanding where and what, only hand mannerism and hand movement. We try to explain ourselves. This guy said to us, okay, we gave him money, and he took us for 2 days walking and walking until he brought us. We asked for a safe place, but he took us directly to the mouth of the lion. He took us directly in Romania to the Romanian German police. This place, ladies and gentlemen, was something so horrible. They tortured, hit, punished. Any kind of punishment and any kind of torture they did to us, the German police, because they said, we know that you are Polish, that you are Jews. All of us were black and blue hidden, but nobody admitted. They talked to me and I said, look, I am a Polish child. I know all the Polish prayers and I knew all the Polish Catholic prayers. I am not a Jew. I hate the Jews. And they tortured us like a whole week. But Romania didn't have a pact with Germany, so they sent us to Hungary. In Hungary, we came. There was like an intermission with the suffering because my father was Polish with the Polish papers, and he was a carpenter, and so were two of his brothers. So they worked as carpenters, and we had a break from it. We had like an intermission from Holocaust. But Germany came to Hungary and took over Hungary. Once they took over Hungary, the Polish people that was make-believe us and Jews, all of them were collected and put into a camp in Budapest where they were waiting to go to Auschwitz. When we came to that camp, the gentleman that was in charge was a man that was from the Wehrmacht. Wehrmacht is the secondary army from the Germans that was following the orders of the SS and of the Germans that were higher in ranks. He looked at us and he got scared. He ran to my mother and said, don't worry, I will do the best I can in order to save you and your daughter, because you look just like my wife and your daughter looks just like my little daughter. And I miss them terribly and I will do my best. My mother got very scared because you never know what a German had in his head. But to be honest, thanks to him, I am here and my mother was here. The papers that came in, the people were put on top and on top again, so we were always pushed aside of going early to Auschwitz. Russians started bombarding Budapest, and we in the camp were very scared what's going to happen, but came a moment that the German was sent to Russia because he was good to the Jews, and we were sent to Auschwitz. We were sent to Auschwitz on a cattle train. That was a train that was filled by hundreds of prisoners from Hungary and from all over, and they were all sent to Auschwitz. On that cattle train, if you put on the train 700 people, maybe 200 stayed alive. How my parents and me survived was an actual wonder that nobody can understand it. Most probably, God wanted us to survive in order to tell what happened to the Jewish people and to other people that the Germans mistreated, like homosexuals, like the gypsies that were called. We got on the train when we got to Auschwitz, the people were separated. My father and his brother went to the left, and me and my mother went to the right. In between, there were people that from left and right were sent directly to the crematorium. Once we were separated, my mother and me went to a long, long barrack. And at that barrack, the women that were tattooing my hand were tattooing it with, with needles like they would be cutting wood. No mercy. Everything was very, very, very cruel and painful. The next day, I got high fever, and my mother tried to help me with whatever she could. How did she help me? She tore off her dress and made a bandage with water, and I had a few days very high fever. My mother in Auschwitz gave birth to her every single day that she was with me. Why do I say it? She went in the morning. I left on purpose time to describe the place that is called Auschwitz. Auschwitz was hell on earth with the direction of a gentleman, a Dr. Mengele. Dr. Mengele was the biggest sadist that the war created. He made life experiment on people, cut off their arm, put on urine into the eyes, put on all kinds of other things, and wrote down how long it took and how much pain it was. I am going to make a little a pause between why do I sit here and tell you all that? My reason for telling you all that is that you are people that are going to be among the last one to listen to my horror story, what happened to me. And my request is from you to repeat my story. And my request from you is that you should know that anybody that went through the Holocaust and survived made a new life for himself. And I am telling you, whatever age you are, whatever who you are, if there is a will, there is a way. Remember this woman that her name is Hanna and is 85 years old and still talks to people about the Holocaust. You have a will and a mission to continue to do everything that you can for your own good being, for your own life. Because if I and thousands of other survivors made a new life for themselves and went to school, became very big businessmen, became doctors, if those people can do it, nothing should stand in your way, because where there is a will, there is a way. You can do anything that you put your mind to it. This is one of the main reasons that I'm talking to children and grown-ups about the Holocaust. It's very important that a person that is down on himself doesn't let go, but tries to work and work himself out and do the best he can for himself. So this is the purpose of my story. I'm going to continue my story. We came to Auschwitz. I was very, very scared. My mother was very scared. Auschwitz was a hellish looking, big place with people lying on the streets dead like herrings. People being Muslims. Muslims are people that are only skin and bone. What happened in Auschwitz to my mother and me? We were put in a barrack, number 15. My mother gave it, reminded me the number 15. My mother went early morning to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and came at 5 o'clock in the evening back. I was left all by myself in a big long barrack with nobody to talk to, nothing to eat, just to wait patiently till my mother came back. When I was left by myself and everybody left, what did I do? I was sitting outside and the rats and the mice came out from all the holes and tried to find food. But there was no food for me, there was no food for them. They were my entertainment. I watched them and they watched me. There were many times that I was very afraid that they will attack me and try to eat me up, but it didn't happen. My mother and came from work at 5 o'clock. Each day, just like last time I told you, it was a tremendous fear in me that she might not come back. And without her coming back from work, I would be a lost soul and I would be eliminated in the next 24 hours because nobody would take care of me like she did. When my mother came back from work, the people in the barrack were so nice, and that didn't happen in Auschwitz. They were nice, and they let us go first before us. They let us go first from the barrack to get some food. What was the food? Rotten potatoes in water cooked. It was horrible, but they let us go first because the food would be a little bit more substantial, some more potatoes. And that was very nice of them. I'm going to tell you a few incidents about what happened to me in Auschwitz. My mother had an infected finger, and the finger was red and infected and swollen. And one day she says, Hanna, I'm going to the infirmary to check my finger. So I said, I come with you. No, but I was as stubborn as my mother. I went with her to the infirmary and she showed the finger to a German woman. And the German woman just said, I cannot do anything. The only thing that I can do, I can chop it off. My mother looked at me with a smile and she said, don't worry, it won't hurt. What did she do? She gave her the hand with the finger. She chopped off the finger. And my mother looked at me and she said, you see, it did not hurt. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a scene that was never ever erased from my memory. You never can explain such heroism as she did by smiling and sending. It didn't hurt. Another time, there was an appel. What is an appel? The Germans sent information that Dr. Mengele is coming to our barrack to make a selection. The selection was entailed from right to the death and left still to be alive. My mother and the whole barrack were standing in the rain, naked, and waiting for 3 hours for Dr. Mengele. Dr. Mengele appeared, and my mother hid me between the women that were taller than she is. I had to hold on because she was afraid he shouldn't see me. he sent half of the barrack to the crematorium, and when it came to my mother, he said to her, I come next time, you have still good skin and you look healthy, you still can work, I'm going to come today to get you again. He never did because the Russian started the war. All the war started to come to an end, so they left quite a few children. The children should not be a line, a number to find them and to be of help to continue trying to to, to, to be alive. One day my mother and me went for a walk in the afternoon in Auschwitz, and the smell of the crematorium was horrible. And I said to my mom, what is stinking here so much? She said, those are people that are being burned. And I was very astounded to hear it because I was a little girl. I didn't know. I just was afraid that this might happen also to me and to my mother. One day, after months being in Auschwitz, the Germans lost the war and the Russians came in and let us go. We went out from Auschwitz. In Auschwitz, the crematorium was horrible. Everything was very, very scary. When we ran out of Auschwitz, on the way to the street, we heard the Russian boys, the Russian police, the Russian soldiers were screaming, Jevushki, Jevushki. That means girls, girls. And we were very scared that we might be abused by them. And we fell into a hole until it was completely quiet. And the next day, we went to the street, and we were lucky. A Polish gentleman took us to Krakow. This is my side story with my mother. On the other side, how much time do I still have? On the other side, my father survived in Poland, and somebody told him that his wife is alive. So he came to Poland, and for 3.5 weeks went from floor to floor in the whole town until he found us. When he found us, our life changed. And what I want to tell you again, never forget what I told you, because where there is a will and there is a way. I said it 3 times. You have to be strong, and nobody should ever hurt your feelings. Don't follow bullies. Stand on yourself and for yourself, because it should never, ever happen again. Unfortunately, we hear such bad news from Europe, what the Russians are doing to their own people, but we have to be strong. America is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful country. People are kind to another. People are tolerant with people like me with an accent. People are good. So you should be proud and happy who you are, and be proud and happy that you can continue living and doing what you need to do for your future and for your children's future. I'm going to stop it and give the floor for questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Hanna, for your incredible speaking tonight and sharing your unbelievable story. And I just wanted to remind everyone, because I was listening and I, of course, know, but can you just share how old you were when all of this happened to you? Because it's truly remarkable to know your age and to know how much you went through and survived.
7.
7.
But 7 in number and 70 in understanding. I was never a child. Until today, I was never a child. Not only that my childhood was robbed for me. This is why it's so important to me to share my story with young people. And old people can hear from it that if you try hard enough, you can still survive.
Truly, truly remarkable. I have, hold on, I see some questions. What were some of the first signs? Did you have any signs that the Germans were going to invade and the Nazis were going to come? Or what were some of those first signs to you?
Everybody was running away from home. Everybody was like running completely drunk. Everybody was so scared. What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Right. Okay. How long did you stay in that horse barn, and how long were the train rides that you took in the cattle cars?
All those time-wise are really questions that are hard for me to answer. In the barn, I stayed around 2 months. The train was maybe 2 days. But in those 2 days, what you saw, what's happening in the train was like 20 years of torture. You were exposed to people choking, to people stampeding one another. Unbelievable.
Right. And then also with Auschwitz, probably the same thing, that every day seems like a year. Do you know how long you were in Auschwitz for?
In Auschwitz, I was at least 2 months, if not more. I cannot give you an exact date.
The exact date. It's very hard to know those exact dates from then and at that time.
Even my mother was alive, I used to call her for information. But now that she's not here, that I am the old one in the family, it's a different story.
Right, of course. Can you share a little bit about how you ended up coming to America?
Yeah. I grew up when I came to Israel from Germany. From Poland, I was an 11-year-old child. I went to school, I went to high school, I went to college, all in Poland, in Israel. I met my husband through my father's partner in business. He came on a trip from America and they introduced me to my husband, and we fell in love and we got married, and we have 2 children and 3 grandchildren.
Amazing. And so what made you come from Israel here to the United States?
My husband was American and he grew up here and he went to school here, and he came on a visit and he wanted to go back to America. And I shouldn't say stupidly, but I was hoping that I would be able to convince him not to go. But it didn't work. He had his mother and father here. He had a business here. So I could not. And I told him when I got married, I told my father, I don't want to go with him to America. So my father said, you are married, you have 2 children, you better get your things together and follow your husband.
Right. And it was, this is the next question, kind of a follow-up. it was really a miracle that you and both your parents survived. Truly incredible for that time. After you moved to America, your parents stayed in Israel, and how long did they live for, your parents?
My parents stayed in Israel. I went every summer with my children to Israel, so my children knew my parents, and my parents were the people that explained to my children about the Holocaust. Much more, they didn't trust my opinion. They wanted to hear it from the grandparents. And the grandparents hardly spoke English, but they told them the story, and there was a very tight connection between my children and my parents, because I felt very guilty I took my children away. But they went every summer. Instead of going here to camp, they went in Israel.
And, okay, hold on. How did you kind of stay calm or stay focused? I mean, you were a little girl, but how has all of this affected you to remain the way you are despite everything you went through? And then there's a follow-up to that.
No choice. And that's the only way things are in life. If you have no choice, you do the best from whatever you have. No choice is, my mother was brainwashing me and protecting me, but at the same time, as protecting she made me independent, because each time she left me for work could have been that she will never come back.
Right. So then the next question, and I'm going to look for something while you answer it, because I do know the answer. Have you ever gone back to Poland?
In 2005, my husband, may he rest in peace, my two children, my two grandchildren, at that time the third one was not existing yet, and my son-in-law, we went back to the roots. He was Romanian. We went to Hungary. We went to all the places that I went there with my mother, and the kids were looking at us, especially in Auschwitz, how big it was and how scary it was. And my grandchildren was very afraid how I'm going to react. My grandson, that was at that time 13-year-old, I acted in Auschwitz as if it's just like now that it happened to somebody else. And he came to me and he hugged me and he said, "You are A-okay." That was one sentence that covered everything. And I will never forget it the way he said it. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did, absolutely. Is there any way, am I able to share the screen? Am I able to have ability to share? Because I just,
yeah, you should be able to. Do you see it do you see a green button? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, but it says the host disabled participant sharing.
Yeah, I can enable it. If you just give me 1 second. I think it was one more question in the chat.
Okay, let me look in the chat. Hold on. Okay, this is an important question. Do you see some similarities between your experience and the current experience of the Ukrainians with the Ukrainian refugees with the Russian invasion?
A big similarity, but this similarity is one-sided. They are running. When we were running, nobody let us in. Nobody gave us food. Nobody tried to help us. We were persona non grata in every place that we went. That means a welcome person wherever. Nobody gave a hoot that they are killing us. And this is something that I watch today. And each time I say, Why didn't anybody help us?
So
No,
very, right. That is so very true. There now we're very fortunate to see the helpers coming out.
they help people. People do so much where I live. People, I give. Anybody gives. Everybody is helpful. At least those people don't feel that I completely non-wanted, not liked. Not we felt like garbage. Nobody wanted to help us, and this was a horrible, horrible feeling. Terrible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Until
And
today, I really feel bad that people are horrible. Russia is horrible. But at least those people that are persecuted know that if they pick themselves up and go to the next door neighbor, that he's not going to hurt them. He's not going to kill them. This is a subject that was very, very painful in my heart.
absolutely. And somebody made a comment which actually makes me, and I hope you feel a little bit good, but maybe people are more willing to help today as a result of knowing and hearing people like you share these stories.
Very true. That's
I
true
hope so.
what you are saying, but it doesn't help you.
So the next question, the next question, and then I'll share to end with something I know is very special to you. Do you know many people that did survive, like people you knew before, or do you know many survivors now?
I knew survivors after the war, some of families that survived. Now I belong to the Holocaust Museum speakers. Over there, they have now a program that they tell you about how those that are still alive survive. But when you look at us, I am still among the young ones. But when you look at them, old and decrepit, you say to yourself, what is it all about? It's very sad. I'm sorry, this is a very, very deep question that it's hard to answer because there is a lot of pain. My mother survived by herself from 5 children in the family. My father survived from 7. So it is hard to say how one feels when one was so robbed of parents.
Yes,
And
absolutely. It is so hard. But one of the things that you and I have discussed and I think is important to share is this beautiful picture that we have. I'm going to try to make it bigger. Let's see.
That's great.
I wanted to
Yeah,
share.
if you go to view, the top over to your right, to the other way. I lost this marker. Come down.
This
Right
is
here.
my family.
Right.
Now, everybody is older. The little guy is 7, and everybody is all over the world. But it's a lot. But it hurts that my husband is not here. But what?
Yes, that is very true. But I also think, and we've talked about this, that showing how beautifully your family has grown is really the answer that Hitler did not win. Since look at what you have.
But if you take into consideration that what happened from 2 people and those 6 million, what could have happened from them, it would have been millions of people.
People more, absolutely.
And the same thing is happening now. All those killing of children, all those bombarding hospitals of children. God.
And that should certainly put this into perspective. Do you want me to share any of the other pictures?
Be my
We have, hold on, the one from when you're little.
Yes, this is my uncle. This is a sister and a brother of my father. And this is where I'm walking. This is my mother and me after the war, when we came to Krakow and we found nobody.
Right. Truly remarkable.
This is Hanna after the war with her mother, with mother and father lighting Hanukkah candles. And this gentleman was an American rabbi. And when he came to Germany, he was one of the rescuers. And when we saw that a rabbi is driving on Shabbat, we almost fainted because we all came from different kind of Judaism, and seeing a rabbi driving on Shabbat was unbelievable. I still remember my mother looked at my father and she said, "He's driving on Shabbos." And may I ask to whom I am speaking? Oh, here is my mother and my father.
Yes, and
So
thank
nice
you.
That's so nice of you that you have the pictures.
I love seeing those pictures.
I always have them ready if it comes up to share.
Really, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And
no, it is very important. Dr. Cox, if you might, can you just tell Hanna a little bit about the school and why you did this at night before we close, just so she knows?
So one, thank you from the bottom of my heart, Hannah. I really appreciate you being here. And it's twofold. One, to honor, as a part of our Women's History Month, we want to honor women, strong women. Sorry if I'm speaking low. And so we're honoring you. We're honoring your story, your strength. We want to commemorate that. And to answer your
strong. I'm strong. I'm a macho.
I love it. I love it. For me personally, selfishly, what I took away from your story is, like, you didn't have a choice. Like, you had to be strong. You're telling us, like, be strong no matter what. No matter what, be strong. And to answer your question, we have a few teachers on. We have some people from the community. We have some students on the call. So we have a multi-layered approach. And we did this two ways. We had an event near Holocaust Remembrance Day, where we did it during the day for high school students primarily, and we had a survivor come in and speak virtually. And I wanted to also give the opportunity for community members to jump in and to hear a survivor's story during Women's History Month. So thank you again for being here. And we also recorded this so that the people who didn't attend, I can send out your talk. So I'm going to send it out to all of, to the teachers in the district, so that they want to share your story in their class. We'll encourage them to do that. So I feel blessed and honored to see you virtually and to hear your story. We really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you from the Plainfield Public School System for being here with us.
Thank you all for inviting me, and I wish everybody health and happiness, and whatever you do should be in good faith and good luck.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having us. There's lots of comments coming in, Hannah. I know you can't read them, that are saying, we feel blessed to have heard your story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Very informative. And thank you for the recording. So there's lots of people that are commenting about how impactful and how special this evening was for them. So we thank you always, Hanna, for sharing. We know it's not easy. And we really, it is so important that you continue to do it. And we're so grateful that you do.
I am very honored, and I do it with all my heart. And you guys are great.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, Dr. Cox, so much for inviting us. And we hope to continue to do this again, and hopefully maybe even in person next year. We would love to be able to see people.
Yes. All righty. Have a blessed evening.
Thank
you. You too. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
It was my honor. Good night, sweetie pie.
Good night, Hanna. You good to get off? Okay.
Yeah, love you. Can you stay on?
Good night.
Can you stay on a minute?
Yeah, I can stay on. Is Dr.